This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Buzz, and I'm very excited to be speaking with Michael Urie about shrinking. How are you, Michael?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. We had the chance to speak a while ago now about season one, and we talked about how everything always goes Brian's way. And I don't think that's really the case in season two. It doesn't seem like things are working out all that well for him. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that bubble burst. He thought everything went his way, and I think during season one he sort of started to realize that that wasn't the case, and that was kind of a mask he wore. This idea that everything goes his way, and he'd had enough instances where that was true that he believed it. But I also think, I think Jimmy, going back to season one, when he and Jimmy reconcile after he had been ghosted all that time, I think that was a restart for them, a really wonderful restart for them. And when we start season two, we see that comes um, with some complications, which is now that like this restart, Jimmy's different, and Brian is starting to realize that he is very different than he was when they became friends. And so I love that storyline at the beginning of season two when Jimmy is not confiding in Brian about his dalliances with Gabby, and it freaks Brian out and really pisses him off. And Brian thinks that like Brian questions whether or not they're even compatible as friends anymore, and whether or not their friendship that started when they were both straight is authentic. And I think I'm so proud of that story, and I think it was such an interesting take on the story, the relationship between a gay man and a straight man, especially one that bridges that coming out. Because as a queer person, I can vouch when we are in our closets, we're not our whole selves, and so Brian's really reconciling with who he is now, and I think that in part is this everything goes my way thing, and I also think um, the idea of becoming a husband and a father was Charlie's dream, Brian's husband's dream, Brian's now husband's dream, not Brian's dream. And I think that in part that's because people of his generation, my generation, very specific generation, um, who are old enough to remember when marriage equality was not legal, when gay marriage was not legal, same-sex marriage was not legal. Um, we know that growing up, we're in this interesting middle ground. Like young people today come out much earlier than we did, and the generations before us came out much more strongly because they had to, because their existence was a political act, was an act of defiance. Their very existence was a protest, and of course, because of the AIDS epidemic, so many gay men of the generations above me were wiped out. And so between like oppression and this horrible plague, and the legal restrictions, people my age didn't really dream of a lot of people my age didn't really dream of becoming a husband or a father because it didn't seem possible. It wasn't in the cards. And so I think that is true for Brian, and that Charlie, whether it's because he grew up in a more accepting household or he's a little bit younger than Brian, or I don't know, but he does dream of these things and it is innately inside of him. And so he's pressuring Brian into doing them all, or at least finding within him a desire to be a husband and a father, and Brian's getting pulled along for the ride, and so I think Brian probably is thinking through most of season two, things are not going my way, but I hope that ultimately it is the right way, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I like that some of it plays out too in front of like Grace, that he's jealous that Grace knew what Jimmy was doing, even though she's in jail and,
Yes.
facing it's like that's not, she doesn't care about that. That's not what she needs to be dealing with.
Right. Totally. And that, like, he ends up having to be, I think he was really happy in his life not having to go into these tough places emotionally. And that he ends up being the inevitable connection between Lewis, the drunk driver, and the family. He's the one who sort of brings him into the fold. Um, while it seems unlikely, I think it is also inevitable that it be Brian, because of where Brian is in that very moment and where Lewis is in that moment. Um, I think that's something that he, a day earlier, 2 days earlier, 10 weeks earlier, 3 years earlier would not have been ready for. But in that moment, he is. And he probably would have thought, this is not something I want to have anything to do with. And yet he's able to be there and really help manifest forgiveness.
That Brian talks a lot and sometimes says things he doesn't mean, but the scene where he tries to explain to Jimmy, talk his way out of what he did and how that happened is so long and uncomfortable just because he keeps going after it's not helping at all. What was it like to film that scene? And did you have to do that multiple times? And did that take, days of shooting?
It only took one day. I will say that piece of writing is such a cool piece of writing. And I don't know if you noticed, but when I explain the whole situation to Alice, Lukita's character Alice, in 2 episodes earlier, it's the same monologue, verbatim. The beginning and end is different, but the bulk of the middle is exactly the same. So by the time we shot episode 8, and I was doing it again, it was very much in there. And it's also like, you don't get monologues like that on TV very often. It's very rare to get something that's that verbose, because TV scenes are often very short, and so we usually use our short-term memory to remember lines. And this was something that I had to, like, actually go sort of like go back to my theater training and use my long-term memory, because I knew, not only did I know that, like, we would have to shoot it a lot in that day. I knew that I was like, I need to get this right away, so that everybody can relax, so that the crew isn't like, what do we have to do? They're not looking at this long monologue and thinking the actor's got to get what right. And I also knew that I was going to be repeating it 2 episodes later. So it was, and I also, I want to say that, like, Jason Segel as an actor is so incredibly prepared, and working with him is, you want to match him. You want to meet him. I wouldn't say match, because I don't know that that's possible, but you want to meet him where he is. And that means a level of preparedness that you just, like, it isn't always done in television and film. A lot of times you'll people will learn their lines on the day, or as you go, or you're like, oh, like, I know it a little bit, but not really well. And Jason's so prepared that we have all become, you know, we've sort of become like him. And so I knew going into that, I knew certainly going into the second one where he's in the scene, that I wanted to be at a place where we could play immediately, where we're not thinking about the words, we're not thinking about the lines. So it took a level of work that I love. I mean, I love doing the work. That's why I want to work hard. I love every scene they give me, but when they give me a big monologue, that's like, yes, let's go. Put me in, coach. Give me the stuff. I want to make something amazing with you. And they wrote something amazing for me.
That's true. Well, 2 seasons in, who do you feel like you still don't get to spend enough time with in the cast on screen?
Um, Luke Tenney, who plays Sean. I have a little bit with him this season. I had a very little bit with him in season 1, but I that's a story that, like, our stories don't intersect very often, and I think he's such a fine actor. And I was very happy. Last season I probably would have said Lukita and I still would like more with her, um, simply because she is also an incredibly gifted actor, and that relationship, like he's known her entire life, which I think is very cool, and fascinating. And so I like any interactions between Brian and Alice, because I think there's so much history there for him, if not for her. I mean, for her, he's dad's friend, mom and dad's friend. Um, but for him, it's as close to a niece as he's going to get. Um, but the dynamic between Brian and Sean, I think, could be really fun and funny and touching if found, if they find the right one. And I don't doubt it will come, because these writers always find their way into anything that I could come up with. They're two steps ahead of me, and and any combination of characters that they put together always causes something special, create something special. So I have no doubt that something's coming down the pike for me and Luke Tenney.
That would be really nice. I feel like the show is very well received by those who have seen it, but still doesn't seem to be quite like out there and visible enough. Do you get the sense that people are discovering it in season two, or it's still a hidden gem for some reason?
Um, I'm so inside it that my whole feed is shrinking, and like, so I don't know. It feels like more people are watching this season than last season, if that means anything. It feels like we're on more radars, which is pretty cool. And because I know it's hard, a very interesting question, and I'm curious about that. I'm curious about, like, how many people are really, and I feel that way about all streaming shows. Like, because like, I mean, some people just turn on Netflix and that's all they watch. And I have all the, streamers, and I try to watch, I sort of end up watching I end up watching a show if enough people tell me to, or if something really is my thing. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's happening out there right now. It feels like there's some excitement around the series, and I'm hearing from a lot of people that I haven't heard from in a long time, which is cool.
Well, you led right into my next question, which is what are you watching? What is really impressing you right now?
Well, I just finished Penguin, and I'm glad I did, because it was giving me nightmares. I was watching it late and I was having nightmares. Not literal nightmares about the penguin, but anxiety dreams that I think are because of that show, which I loved. I also loved Agatha all the way. Um, and I am a huge Only Murders in the Building, Somebody Somewhere is another one that I love. Uh, what's the other one that we just watched? Now that I'm apart from my partner, I'm gonna watch different. Like we when we're together, we have to, like, but now we're apart for a while, and so I'll start watching some things that I've been wanting to watch, but have, like, Silo. I want to get back into Silo. Oh, I really like Bad Monkey. I'm not just saying this because my boss is Bill Lawrence. I loved Bad Monkey, and that's something that, like, I watched on my own, because it's not Ryan, it's not my partner's thing, but I thought it was great. So fun. What else?
It's a great choice. I was also talking to Brett about how um, Meredith Hagner was a very strange choice in some ways for this guest spot because I've seen her mostly in the bad monkey type role, which she's so good at, but she was a great fit here, it turned out as well.
Totally. Honestly, I have to tell you, this is I did not know that she was on Shrinking. And when I saw her, I was like, you can't trust that woman. because I loved her so much on Bad Monkey. But she's great. She was great on Shrinking. It was a lovely,
She
lovely.
has like a bad, mean Becky Newton kind of vibe.
Yes,
Who she could-
she's Bizarro Becky.
Well, while we wait for, timing on season three, which I'm sure is far away, is there anything else you're working on that you can share?
Yeah, I'm in. I just closed in a Broadway musical that ended on Saturday, and we're going to do it in Los Angeles at the Amundsen Theater for 4 weeks, which is really cool. And I am just did an audiobook that is going to come out soon, and I'm on Crapopolis, this Fox animated show. I have a part on that. So I've been doing some recording for that. I think that's all I can talk about. I'm waiting on my offer for the next Marvel movie, which is somehow still not coming.
What's the role, generally speaking?
Any Avenger. Luke Tenney and I actually love Luke Tenney and I love Marvel, and we're working out how to get Harrison to invite us to the premiere of Captain America. I think we
Well,
can do it.
I wish you a lot of luck with that and perhaps some more likely endeavors like season three of Shrinking and beyond.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Michael. So good to see you again.
You too, Abe. Thank you.